On a quiet April night in New Haven, a young Yale student steps into the shadows of an ancient campus tradition, one that has shaped presidents, business magnates, and power brokers for nearly 2 centuries. Hidden behind stone walls and sealed doors lies a society so exclusive, so deeply embedded in America's upper echelons, that even its existence feels like a whisper carried through generations. This is Skull and Bones, the 200-year-old fraternity whose rituals are rarely spoken of, whose membership list reads like a blueprint of the nation's leadership, and whose influence has sparked some of the most enduring mysteries in modern American history. Imagine being selected not by chance, but by design to enter a world where future leaders are molded, where symbols of mortality line the walls, and where the line between myth and reality blurs. Presidents such as George W. Bush and Senator John Kerry once walked the same hidden corridors, took part in the same coded traditions, and emerged into public life with a connection that few outsiders could ever understand. Tonight, we are going inside the legend. We will peel back the layers of ritual, history, and power to uncover why Skull and Bones continues to fascinate scholars, feed conspiracy theories, and hold a grip on the American imagination. If you are ready to explore one of the most mysterious organizations in the world, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next deep dive into the secrets of history. Let's begin. To understand how this enigmatic brotherhood became so deeply woven into the fabric of American power, we have to travel back nearly 2 centuries, long before the society's name became a source of speculation and whispered theories. In 1832, a Yale student named William Russell returned from a year abroad in Germany, carrying with him more than just academic inspiration. During his time there, he had witnessed the elaborate rituals and tightly guarded traditions of German student fraternities, groups that blended intellectual ambition with a powerful sense of exclusivity. These experiences ignited an idea in him, a vision of creating something equally profound on American soil, an organization that would bind its members not just through friendship, but through a shared journey into symbolism, philosophy, and the contemplation of mortality itself. When Russell established the society that would later become Skull and Bones, he did so with a deliberate depth of meaning. The symbols he chose were not random curiosities but echoes of ancient traditions that had endured for thousands of years. Skulls and bones were more than macabre decorations. They were reminders of the fleeting nature of life, part of a long lineage of memento mori imagery meant to sharpen the mind and focus the spirit. Members who entered the society's windowless headquarters, known ominously as the Tome, would encounter these symbols everywhere, creating an atmosphere where the weight of history pressed in on them from every side. Here, young students stood face to face with reminders that power, legacy, and ambition carried responsibilities far greater than themselves. And then there was the number 322, a cipher that outsiders have puzzled over for generations. While many interpretations have been proposed, the society's own historical clues point toward ancient Athens, a civilization whose intellectual legacy shaped much of Western thought. In 322 BC, the death of the orator Demosthenes marked the symbolic end of Athenian freedom, a moment that resonated with those who saw wisdom and civic responsibility as inseparable virtues. By placing 322 beneath their emblem, Russell's society connected itself to a philosophical lineage that valued reason, debate, and the pursuit of truth, even when such pursuits carried personal risk. In this way, Skull and Bones was built not merely as an elite club, but as a modern heir to classical traditions, adopting their warnings and aspirations in equal measure. These elements: German fraternal influence, ancient Athenian symbolism, and memento mori imagery merged to create an identity that felt both scholarly and secretive, one that set the society apart from anything else on American campuses. Over time, this foundation fostered a powerful sense of belonging among its members, who saw themselves not as ordinary students but as stewards of an old and demanding legacy within the tome's walls. They participated in rituals designed to strip away the superficial layers of student life and push them toward deeper reflection on mortality, purpose, and the weight of future leadership. The society's founders believed that confronting these concepts early would shape stronger, more thoughtful individuals, capable of navigating the complexities of national and global affairs. As the decades passed, the organization grew in reputation and influence, drawing to its ranks individuals who would go on to occupy pivotal positions in politics, business, and diplomacy. Yet the heart of Skull and Bones remained rooted in the same symbolic language and philosophical curiosity that Russell imported from Europe. Its rituals and imagery, cloaked in mystery to the outside world, became a defining passage for those chosen to enter, linking each new generation to the ideals and questions that had shaped the society from the beginning. As the decades unfolded, the organization, built on William Russell's classical inspirations, grew into something far more intriguing than a campus fraternity, gradually developing a reputation that extended far beyond Yale's stone archways. What began as a society rooted in ancient symbolism slowly became associated with the rise of individuals who would stand at the helm of national decision-making. Observers noticed a pattern. The young men initiated in the shadowy chamber of the tome often reappeared years later in the corridors of political authority, steering legislation, shaping policy, or influencing diplomacy. Former members emerged in cabinet offices, in strategic roles within intelligence agencies, and at the head of major financial institutions, creating the impression of a quiet, tightly linked network operating beneath the visible surface of the country's power structure. These trajectories were never openly acknowledged, yet their recurrence was difficult to ignore, prompting questions about whether the society's internal bonds simply created lifelong alliances, or whether a more intentional design lay beneath. With each generation, the silence surrounding the group only amplified the intrigue. Outsiders, lacking access to its internal workings, began to fill the vacuum with speculation. Some suggested that the society served as a recruitment channel for individuals whose ambition matched the group's long-standing emphasis on leadership, guiding them toward careers that shaped national direction. Others believed that its influence was more subtle, that the trust built through shared rites of passage made collaboration natural later in life, especially in fields where loyalty and discretion were essential. Over time, these theories evolved into larger narratives, painting the organization as an unseen architect behind key moments in political and economic history, whether guiding election outcomes, shaping diplomatic strategies, or contributing to major shifts in national policy. Even if these stories lacked confirmed evidence, they spread because they resonated with a pattern that appeared too consistent to dismiss entirely. As the organization's reputation grew, it found itself entangled in a wider web of speculation involving other groups with similar mystique. Enthusiasts of hidden histories began to imagine a landscape where numerous secret societies, each with its own symbols, codes, and philosophies, quietly maneuvered for influence across global affairs. In this imagined realm, Skull and Bones was cast as a competitor to older fraternities rooted in European traditions, groups whose origins predated the founding of the United States. Some writers propose that these organizations interacted in subtle ways, aligning on certain issues while diverging sharply on others, creating a shadow network of ideals and ambitions that paralleled and sometimes contradicted the visible actions of governments. This narrative, though fueled more by curiosity than by verifiable fact, contributed to the society's growing mythos, pushing it beyond a campus tradition into the realm of global fascination. Despite the dramatic tone of these theories, they reveal something significant about how the organization is perceived. Its secrecy, its ties to influential alumni, and its legacy of symbolism create an atmosphere where imagination thrives. People naturally seek explanations for patterns of influence, especially when those patterns connect to a group known for privacy and ritual. Whether the stories are exaggerated or grounded in threads of truth, they highlight the enduring impact of a society that has managed to remain both visible and hidden, shaping the minds of future leaders while allowing the public to see only glimpses of its rituals and philosophies. It is this balance between documented history and whispered speculation that keeps the organization at the center of conversations about power, legacy, and the unseen forces that may shape the course of nations. The documentary moves deeper into the maze of speculation by examining the symbols that have fueled generations of curiosity. And as the story unfolds, these motifs reveal more about the human imagination than any hidden order. The Eye of Providence, resting above the unfinished pyramid on the dollar bill, is often cited as the clearest sign of an unseen hand guiding history. Yet scholars remind us that the image originally symbolized divine guidance for a young nation finding its way. Still, the documentary acknowledges how easily symbolism can take on a life of its own, especially when nations struggle, fortunes rise and fall, and people search for meaning behind patterns that feel too deliberate to ignore. The number 13, another favorite subject of these theories, appears across early American iconography not as a coded message, but as a straightforward reference to the original colonies, though audiences have long read more into it than the creators ever intended. The narrative glides into the tale of the so-called hidden owl said to be tucked into the ornate design of currency, a small shape some interpret as evidence of a secret group leaving its mark. Historians interviewed in the documentary emphasize that such readings rely heavily on pareidolia, the psychological tendency to see faces, animals, or symbols where none were intentionally placed. Yet the persistence of this belief speaks to something deeper in the culture, a fascination with the idea that beneath the visible layers of society lies a network operating in silence. Rather than dismiss this fascination, the documentary uses it to explore how symbols evolve over centuries, accumulating interpretations that reflect the hopes and fears of each generation. As the camera lingers on close-ups of currency under magnification, the narrator threads these symbols back into the larger story already told, reminding viewers how earlier rumors about political infiltration and global competition gain momentum when anchored in imagery that feels ancient or mystical. The documentary blends scholarship with atmosphere, inviting viewers to consider how these theories persist not because they are supported by evidence, but because they offer a narrative structure that makes a complicated world feel more predictable. People gravitate towards stories in which powerful groups leave clues behind, intentionally or otherwise, as though history itself is a puzzle waiting to be solved. In tying these symbols to the broader themes of the film, the story suggests that the appeal of such interpretations lies in their ability to turn ordinary designs into gateways to hidden truths, even when experts agree that coincidence, artistic style, and myth-making explain them far more convincingly. Rather than portraying believers as misguided, the documentary captures the universal human desire to connect dots across time, to impose meaning on symbols that outlast their original purpose, and to imagine that the world operates according to patterns accessible only to those who know where to look. By the end of this section, the symbols on the dollar bill become more than illustrations. They become a reflection of our collective urge to search for order in the unseen, linking seamlessly with the earlier discussions about influence, secrecy, and the stories societies create to explain power. While Skull and Bones captured the imagination of many in the United States, the documentary broadens its gaze across the Atlantic to explore another organization whose legend has endured for centuries. The Illuminati. Founded in 1776 in Bavaria by the scholar Adam Weishaupt, the society emerged at a time of political unrest and intellectual ferment, when the ideals of the Enlightenment were challenging the authority of church and state. Weishaupt, frustrated with the constraints of ecclesiastical control over education and philosophy, envisioned a network of thinkers and reformers who could quietly influence society from within. Advocating reason, civic responsibility, and the pursuit of knowledge over blind obedience. His ambition was not merely academic, it was revolutionary in intent, seeking to reshape political structures without the violent upheaval that had characterized previous attempts at reform. The Illuminati operated with a meticulous hierarchy designed to preserve both secrecy and influence, an internal structure that mirrored the same discipline observed in other elite societies like Skull and Bones, though its scale and ambition were broader. Each member advanced through levels of initiation, gaining knowledge gradually, while simultaneously being encouraged to observe and report on fellow members to ensure loyalty and compliance. This system created an environment where trust was paramount, yet suspicion never far from the surface, reflecting the delicate balance required to protect radical ideas in a world ruled by entrenched powers. At its peak, the society attracted philosophers, educators, and influential figures who shared Weishaupt's vision. Individuals willing to risk personal safety for the potential to shape society according to reasoned principles rather than inherited authority. Despite its intellectual rigor and noble aspirations, the Illuminati could not remain hidden forever. By 1785, after less than a decade of operation, the Bavarian government banned the order, perceiving its secretive nature and ambitious goals as a threat to the established order. Members were forced to scatter, some fleeing in disguise, while others attempted to continue their work in relative obscurity. Yet, the society's brief existence was enough to ignite centuries of speculation and myth-making, fueled both by the dramatic suppression of its members and the tantalizing possibility that its influence had not entirely disappeared. Legends grew of correspondences with influential figures in the New World. Mysterious symbols, encoded messages, which conspiracy theorists would later connect to American politics and currency, weaving a narrative that persists to this day. By linking the Illuminati to the story of Skull and Bones and the symbolic interpretations on the dollar bill, the documentary highlights a recurring theme: human fascination with secrecy, power, and the idea that small, dedicated groups can shape the course of history from behind closed doors. Though separated by geography and centuries, both societies exemplify the same blend of idealism, ritual, and strategic discretion, illustrating how elite networks operate within and beyond the public eye. The story of the Illuminati adds a historical layer to the narrative, showing that the tension between secrecy and influence, between ambition and surveillance, has been a defining feature of societies that seek to leave a lasting mark on the world, long after their founders are gone. As we reach the final chapter of this journey into the world of secret societies, it becomes clear that the allure of the unknown is as powerful today as it was centuries ago. The Illuminati, though officially disbanded in the late 18th century, continue to capture the imagination of writers, filmmakers, and curious minds around the globe, their names synonymous with intrigue, hidden influence, and the tantalizing idea that a small group of people could shape the course of nations from the shadows. Much of this fascination is tied to the idea that members of these societies whether in Bavaria or across the Atlantic in the United States, were connected to pivotal moments in history, even interacting with key figures involved in the founding of a nation. While concrete evidence is often elusive, the stories endure, fueled by symbolism, rumor, and the natural human tendency to seek patterns in complex events. The documentary leaves viewers with a broader reflection. Secret societies have persisted not merely because of their real-world influence, but because of our own fascination with secrecy, hierarchy, and the mechanisms of power. Humans are drawn to mysteries, to rituals shrouded in silence, and to the idea that some knowledge is reserved for the few. These societies offer a lens through which we can explore our collective curiosity about authority, loyalty, and the structures that shape human behavior. They become a mirror reflecting both our desire to understand the world and our suspicion that there may always be forces operating beyond our perception. Through the stories of Skull and Bones, with its hidden tomes and coded numbers, and the historical accounts of the Illuminati, with their strict hierarchies and clandestine networks, we see a recurring theme: the tension between visibility and concealment, between public life and private influence. These groups, whether mythologized or real, illustrate that power is often intertwined with discretion, and that the fascination with secret knowledge is a timeless aspect of human society. The legacy of these organizations lies not only in their actual deeds but in the way they inspire imagination, debate, and inquiry across generations. As we close this exploration, it is worth remembering that while conspiracy theories may exaggerate or misinterpret the influence of such groups, they also speak to the enduring curiosity that drives humans to question, investigate, and imagine beyond the surface of what is presented. Secret societies endure in stories, symbols, and cultural memory because they tap into fundamental human themes: the desire for understanding, the search for connection, and the allure of hidden knowledge. They remind us that history is never just what is recorded in books. It is also shaped by what is whispered, what is imagined, and what is sought after in the quiet corners of society. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the hidden corners of history. If you found this exploration intriguing, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss future deep dives into the world's most fascinating stories. Your support helps us continue to uncover the mysteries and legends that shape our understanding of the past and present.